Hello, my name is David Gollob, and I'm a platform architect with Microsoft. In today's session, we're going to build a PowerPivot Excel workbook that will show something like a dashboard. And what we're going to do today is take roughly 250,000 decedents from 2008 in California, and we're going to show the most dominant trend over the past 10 days relative to the latest recorded death in all of those citizens. Let's take the top 10 trended, most critical international causes of disease. So it won't pick up the most dominant maybe as far as total number, but what we will look at is which causes of disease are trending the most dramatically. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, let's launch Excel and go to the PowerPivot tab. And then we're going to choose a data source. In our case, we will point at the California Department of Health data warehouse. And we'll just select that. And then we're going to select a view that IT has set up for us to retrieve the decedent information. And we'll choose some related tables or dimensions if you're coming from a Kimball methodology. And now we will pull that data into PowerPivot. And as you can see here, we've pulled in right around 250,000 decedents and then all of the related dimensions for those decedents. So now we're looking at the table view, and here we're looking at a graphical view of this star schema representing decedents and the related dimensions. At this point, we can define measures. So I have this cheat sheet with some DAX measures. You can certainly go online to MSDN and look at these. First, let's get the count of decedents. So you can see that DAX function looks a lot like an Excel function. And in the measures pane area of our PowerPivot, we can just go ahead and paste that DAX function that will retrieve the count of decedents. And that will be relative to the context in the pivot table, of course. And we'll grab the DAX function that defines the previous day, prior day count of decedents. So again, we will paste this into our measure pane within PowerPivot. And we'll just kind of march along and continue to do this. Now we're going to divide the count of decedents by prior day count. And we'll go ahead and paste that into the measure pane area of PowerPivot. And in this case, once we've pasted this, we'll actually define a key performance indicator. This isn't required for our project, but I want to show this to you how you would define a KPI. And we're going to indicate that no trending growth is a good thing. So 0 is green. Anything above 0, though, is some kind of trending upwards. And in our case, we'll just indicate up to 1 is yellow, and above 1 means double or more of a trend over prior day is red. So we have our KPI defined here. We'll continue to define some measures. So let's go ahead and define the last non-blank decedent 10 days back for our entire 250,000 decedents. And we'll go ahead and we'll paste that in here as well as we march along. Please use the DAX reference within msdn.com. Just search SQL 2012 DAX. And you can then dissect the syntax. It's not super complex, at least the syntax that I'm using. It's not super complex. So again, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll define the last non-blank decedent 10 days back. And again, I encourage you to look at the DAX definitions within msdn.com. And now we'll grab another measure. In this case, we're looking for the last date that's within the context of the pivot table. and we'll go ahead and paste that as well. And now we're going to check, we just want to check now if the current decedent count is blank. It's just a little Boolean return here. And then really the workhorse measure, because these other measures make up this larger measure here. We're going to test for last non-blank less than or equal to the last date, and the last date has some value. So you could see from that DAX that we included some of these prior measures to make up this this main DAX formula. This is what we're going to use in our Excel worksheet. Okay, now we're going to use a template to create a pivot table, and now we're in Excel, and you can see the PowerPivot field list off to the right here. So let's start to build out our pivot table. First, we're going to choose the measure representing the count of decedent, and then we're going to choose that KPI that we indicated, but we're just going to grab the value. That's that fractional current decedent divided by prior day. So we have our measures defined for our pivot table. Now what we want to do is we want to grab all of the ICDs and go ahead, and now we can see the ICDs and their counts and the prior day counts for them. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the Phipps county, so we can then drill into a given ICD, and then which counties do we see the those disease causes. We'll go ahead and collapse that now. And we're off to the races. Do a little bit of sizing here. What do we need? We need that sense of time now. So for that sense of time, what we're going to grab is the date key, and we'll go ahead and put that date information in our pivot table, and now we can see the date information, day at a time for the entire set. Now we're going to filter, do a column value filter for that last measure we defined, and that was the measure that indicated whether we're within that 10-day bracket. We'll check for 1, and now we should see a pivot table that is looking out over the last 10 days based on the last known day. So we're cranking along here. And at this point, I think we're going to do a little bit of formatting, because remember, the whole goal here is to get the last 10 and the top 10. So now we'll do some value filtering by the row, and we're going to look for the top 10 day-over-day trends. And you can see that the measure we're going to use is looking at the prior day trend value. So now we have the past 10 days, top 10, based on prior day increase in ICD. Now what we're going to do is a little bit of column adjusting, just to make sure that this is a aesthetically pleasing pivot table. And we'll just reorganize some of the column headings so they're vertically aligned. There, that looks good. And we'll also do a little bit of border definition so that we can really delineate each day. And we'll use hardline borders for the coupling of current day and prior day trend, and then we'll use a kind of a dashed border. So we'll come up here to borders and get this pivot table looking really sharp here. Now we're going to do that interesting color banding that Excel offers, and this allows us to easily zero in on where there's some problematic trends occurring within that top 10. So this is actually a very important part of our visualization. So we'll go ahead and we'll select the prior day trend, and we're going to come up here to Excel at this point. And what we're going to do is look at color banding. But we're going to do our own custom color banding, a 3-level color banding. And we'll start with kind of a grayish yellow for the less severe trend passing through yellow and then going to red for the most critical trend. And now we have some nice color banding. And then we're going to choose the actual count. And rather than using color banding, we'll use a data bar. So we come back to the same area. We're going to use the blue data bar. And now we can differentiate between count and trending. And this gives us a very easy to read, very easy to quickly assess where there's some issues.